We're on DAF Ches today. Start from the bottom of DAF Zayin on Beis. So, by two dots, Umaydim Shim Shachat Shiachbar Bedakar Vayechasa. That Beis Hill is minded that if they shechted an animal, so you need a chaya, so you have, or a bird, so you have to cover it with, you have to do kisei dam. So you can stick in a spade, a shovel, and cover. So Amar Rabbi Zrika, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Vahu Sheish Lo Dakar Notes Mibai Yaim. That's only if you had a spade stuck into the earth from the day before. In other words, it's not Daichen Isur Deraisa. You can't digging a hole is chafira. So that, or sorry, putting a spade in the earth is chafira. And so Isur Deraisa. So Rabbi Yehuda is saying that you cannot. It's not Daichen Deraisa. So Gemara says, "Well, kavod kasisha." There's another Isur Deraisa. So there's crushing the earth. To cover blood, you have to have softer earth. It doesn't. A chunk of earth doesn't work. So you have to crush it up, and that's a telada of teichin. Okay. So Amar Rav Chia bar Ashi Amar Rav be'afar tichuach. We're speaking about the soft earth. Okay, so Gemara says, "V'haka avid guma." You're making a guma. So, assumingly, Taisha says we're speaking about that there is soft earth which is surrounded by harder earth. So, when you take out a handful of it or a shovelful of it, you will be left with a hole instead of just the earth caving in. So, you're making a hole, which is baina. So, Gemara says, "Rabbi Abba, like Rabbi Abba, Damar Rabbi Abba, ha'chayfer guma b'Shabbos. If you dig a hole on Shabbos, ve'ino tzarich el la'afara." You don't need the hole itself, all you need is the dirt. Pater Allah, you are pater. And even though by Shabbos the halacha is pater aval aser, but for Simchas Yom Tov they weren't geyser. Okay, fine. So now, then the Mishnah went on to say, She'efer kira muchanhu, and assumingly the Mishnah was saying the reason why this works is because the ashes of the oven is prepared. So, Gemara asked the question, Efer kira man dekashmei, what does that have to do with anything? Where we're speaking about the ashes of the ovens, we're speaking about covering the blood with dirt. So Amar Rabba, this is what the Mishnah means to say. Ve'efer kira muchanu. Not only that, you could also use the ashes of the oven. It's considered prepared from the day before. And in other words, that's the main use. That's what you're going to. That's pretty much the only other thing you're going to do with the ashes. So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Loishan.
The blood with it.
To cover the blood, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Loishanu Ela Shahusak Mi Erev Yom Tov. This only works if you heated up the oven Erev Yom Tov, meaning that the ashes were created Erev Yom Tov. Aval Husak Bi Yom Tov Aser. If it was heated up on Yom Tov, it's Aser. It wasn't Muchan, wasn't prepared. Could be also a problem of Noilad. Ve'im Roi Litzlois by BEITZA Mutter. However, if it was just heated up, and in fact the ashes are still hot enough to roast an egg, then it is mutter. Reason being that it's not considered noila so long as the original use is completely finished.
Not.
In other words, being that you start off with firewood and turn into ash, so you would think that's noila. In fact, it is. But the thing is, the original purpose of the firewood was to heat up your food. Being that the ashes still have the same usage, it's not considered noilad yet. Okay, so it's not considered a new entity from the wood yet until it's cooled down. And that being the case, you could still use it, and you could even use it to cover the blood. Okay, so then the Gemara says, if you bring dirt into your garden, or into your, it's a ruined building, which is only used mainly for storage, but it's not livable. So you bring in dirt, you prepare it before Yom Tov. Mutter lachasis by it's mutter to cover with it, and we don't say it's bottled to the ground. We don't say it's part of the ground, and it makes it muksa. It's you could use it. Rav Yehuda, and Rav Yehuda also says, Machnas Adam Melai Kupasa Afar, a person brings in a full container of dirt, Va'isa by Kol Sarka, and he could do whatever he wants with it. In fact, Rav Yehuda is saying you should do that. Okay, so Darish Marzutra Mishmei de Marzutra Rabba. Marzucha was teaching in the name of Marzucha Rabbah. V'hu sheyiched loy keren zavis, and that's specifically if you designate a corner. But if you just spread around the whole house, in fact, it becomes bottled to the ground and it becomes aser. Meisaveh asked a big question on going on Rav Yehuda, that how is it possible to prepare dirt? As we find in a brisa, kai ein sheichtin aisai b'yantiv, so a kai, which is a suffix if it's a behema or a chaya or berif b'fnei asma. In any case, it's a suffix. Do you have to do kisu yadam? A behema you don't have to. A chaya you do. So
it's a strange animal.
it's not really known. Not really known what it is. It's
it's behema or chaya.
Right.
That's a Russian symbol.
What is it?
Well, some identify this as a buffalo.
Okay.
Know what that is.
Okay. But only some do, so therefore.
Right. Okay. So yeah, there's no translation given. So you shouldn't shecht it. Rashi says because you'll get into this problem of the Gemara is going to say you can't cover it, and misafik you have to, so you're stuck. So you can't shecht it on Yom Tov. If you did shecht it, ein mechasin estama, you can't cover the blood. Okay. Because maybe it's a behema and there's no mitzvah of kisoy, and you can't. It's muksa. You can't. There's muksa. Also, there's an issue of tercha. Okay, so ve'i isa. Now the thing is, if we're going like a Rabbi Yehuda, like Rabbi Yehuda, you should cover like Rabbi Yehuda. Meaning, Rabbi Yehuda says you can prepare dirt from the day before, and it's completely muchan. It's not muksa. It's prepared for everything you want to use it for, including covering blood, even if it's not a chiyuv to do so. So Gemara says, back up a little bit, even according to your reason that, according to Rav Yehuda, the dirt is muchan. So, meaning, it's not a question of Rav Yehuda, because the mission itself was saying you cover with ashes of the oven, or if you have a shovel stuck into the dirt, you could use it. And the Gemara here is assuming that there is no issue of muksa whatsoever. Ella, so Gemara says, Ella deleisle, cases you don't have any dirt. So hachanami deleisle. So if so, here too, by the case of even by a case of vade, cases where you don't have. So Gemara says, in other words, so by a case of a kai, so it's not a question of Yehuda, you don't have any dirt prepared. So Gemara says, "Ihachi my area suffix." If so, why do you have to speak about a suffix chaya, a kai? Even a vade animal, even a vade chaya, can't dig up there. It can't be over any isurei deoraisa in order to. It's not. We don't say it's a deichlos to say here. So Gemara says, "Lomi bay kamar." It's saying a lomi bay. As in, like, don't only say this also. Lomi by vade, don't only say a vade case, a vade chaya, deloy lishchait, that you cannot shecht it. Aval safek ema mishum simchas yom tev lishchait, v'lay lichseyei kamash malan. You might think that specifically a vade animal which needs kisu yadam and you don't have any dirt prepared. So, being that you will for sure be required to cover it and you won't be able to, so you can't shecht it. But you would think that a kai, which is a suffix chiyuv, you might think for simchas yom tov, so you should just shecht it and don't cover it. And the Rabban here will be mekel. Kamash Malan know that if it's a suffix, you can't shecht it either. Okay. So then the Gemara says, "V'ha meditani seifa," but so until now the Gemara is assuming that you don't have any dirt, but the Gemara asks the question, "V'ha meditani seifa," that which we taught in the seifa, "V'im shachta ein mechasin estamai," that if you shecht it, you don't cover the blood. Miklal b'deisle, implying that you have dirt, and therefore the Brisa has to specifically tell us that you should not cover it. Ella Amar Rabba, Efer Kira Muchan Levadai ve'ein Muchan Lesafik. The ashes in the oven are only prepared for a vadai, and it's not prepared for a safik. And if so, could be that's why we would have a question on Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, so Gemara says, "L'safik my taima lie. So why isn't it prepared? Why isn't considered prepared for a suffix chaya? The ka'avid guma, because you're making a guma, you're making a little trench inside the ashes. So Gemara says, if that's the case, v'adenami ka'avid guma, it's not daiche de'arai, so you can't. It's called baina, making a little ditch, or okay. So even if it's a vadeicha, you can't do so. So Gemara says, ela k'd Rabbi Abba, rather you're going to say like Rabbi Abba, that in fact it's a malacha she'ein tzricha legufa, you don't need the hole, and therefore there is no issur deraisa, and for Simchas Yom Tov we allow you to do so. So hachanami k'd Rabbi Abba, so here too by a suffix you should do this for the same idea should work. Ela suffix my taima. So rather a suffix, why, if it's a koye, you can't. So why can you not cover the blood? Dilma of a kesisha, because you might do kesisha. You'll in the pile of earth you'll be stuck with some clumps. You'll have to crush it. So because of that, the Rabban says you should not cover it. So Gemara says, if so, vadeinami nigzar mishum kesisha. If so, a vadai chaya, you should also not cover the blood on Yom Tov because you might come to a deraisa. So Gemara answers no. Vadai ki ka'avid kesisha asiyasei v'dachi es loisasei, because once by a chaya you have a chiyuv deraisa to cover it, and you have a chiyuv asei which is daicha the loisasei. In other words, really, in fact, it's not even lechatchila. Really, you're not allowed to crush the earth, but the Gemara is saying that there's no reason to make a gzeira, because even if you do happen to crush the earth inadvertently, you're not over an issur deraisa, because it's really a b'diavad. It's not a lechatchila. It's just saying that that there's no need to make a gzeira, because if he did happen to crush the earth, it's not such a problem, and therefore there's no reason to make a gzeira. So Gemara says that's not true, because Eimar de Amrinan, when do we say Asiyasei v'dachi es loisasei kigain mila b'tzaras? That's by mila on with tzaras. If you have tzaras and makon mila, and there's a issur to cut off tzaras. So the chiyuv mila comes and you do the bris mila, even though you'll end up cutting off tzaras. Inami are also sadin mitzitzis, putting on shatnez. This is by shatnez linen by tzitzis, which it will be shatnez. And even so, Torah says you could because of asiyasei v'dachi loisasei. So and both these cases, the be'idna de me'aker lav kamakim lasei. At the time when you are being aker the lav, you are uprooting the lav, you are upholding the asay. So, in other words, when you're doing the bris milah, it's the exact same time, right? And when you're putting on tzitzis, it's also the exact same time. However, hacha over here, be'idna de me'aker lav kamakim lasei. At the time when you are being aker the lav, you're uprooting the lav, you're not upholding the asay because that comes later. Okay, when you're crushing the earth, you're not covering it at the same time. So Gemara says, "Halei kasha." That's not a question. The bahadi de kasish kamechasi. You could have in a way that you put the clumps of earth directly on the blood, and then in its place you crush it. So at the same time, when you are being over on the loisa, so you are being kind of the essay of covering the blood. So Gemara says, "Saif still at the end of the day, Yom Tov asay v'loisa asehu ve'ina asay doiche es loisa asay v'asay." We say asay doiche loisa asay, but it's not doiche and asay and loisa asay. By Yom Tov we have loisa asay kol malacha, and we also have you have to rest. It's a positive obligation also. Okay, so Ella Amar Rava, so rather Rava says a different answer. Efer Kira Daitoi Levadai Ve'ina and Daitoi Lesafik. The reason why you cannot use the ashes of an oven to cover the blood of a kai is that the ashes are your intention for them is only for the vadai, not for a safik. And your intentions make something muksa or not muksa. For something not to be muksa, you have to have in mind to use it for that specific purpose. Ve'azda Rava Latami, and Rava goes according to his reasoning, which he says other places. Damar Rava Hichnes Afar Lechasis by Tzaya. If you bring in dirt to cover Tzaya, Mutter Lechasis by Dam Tzibur. So you could use it to cover Dam Tzibur. Reason is because Tzaya is only a suffix, because maybe the child will dirty the outside as opposed to the inside. Not necessarily, in other words, it might be in a place where you don't have to cover it. Whereas by Dam Tzibur, you know for sure you will shecht a bird on Yom Tov for the meal. So that's a vadai. So you could use it for. So if you have dirt prepared for a suffix for covering tzaya, so you could use it for covering the blood of a tzibur, which is a vadai, because you will shecht on Yom Tov. Dam tzibur, however, if you prepare dirt to cover the blood of a bird, also the chazis by tzaya, you can't cover tzaya with it, because if it was only prepared for a vadai, and you can't use it for a suffix. So to here, if it's dirt which was prepared for kisei dam of a vadai chaya, you can't use it for a suffix chaya. Okay, that's Rava's opinion. Nehar Ravlai, Amri Nehar Ravlai says, and Rashi says this is Rami Bar Berivi. So afilu hichnes afar lachasis by dam tzibur, even if you bring in dirt to cover the blood of a tzibur, mutter lachasis by tzaya, you could cover tzaya with it. Rashi says because it's korev levadai. You have a young child, so you will. It's not for sure going to happen, but it probably will. Okay, so Amri ben Rava, they said in Eretz Yisrael, literally in the west. So Pligi bar Rabbi Yossi bar Chama Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Yossi bar Chama and Rabbi Zera are arguing. V'amila, there are those who say it was Rava Bred Rav Yosef bar Chama Rabbi Zera. And that those were the two who were arguing. Chad Amar Koi Harayu Kitsaya. One says Koi is like Tsaya. V'chad Amar Koi Einoi Kitsaya. One says Koi is not like Tsaya. In other words, Koi is a suffix. Is it like Tsaya? Really, the question is what's Tsaya? Because if Tsaya is a vade, then Koi is not like it. If Tsaya is a suffix, then Koi is like it. So Tistayim de Rava Huda Amar Koi hu Harehu Kitsaya. So it's logical that Rava holds that a Koi is like Tsaya, and in fact, you cannot use it. The Amar Rava, as Rava says, Chichnes Afa Lachasis by Tsaya. If you bring in dirt to cover Tsaya, Mutter Lachasis by Dam, you could cover Dam Tzibur. You could use it to cover the blood of a bird, because that's a vade, as we've said. Dam Tzibur, if you bring dirt in to cover the blood of a bird, because you know you're going to shecht on Yom Tov. Also Lachasis by Tsaya, you can't cover Tsaya with it, because that's only a suffix. So it's logical that Rava would say that a koi you cannot cover. You cannot use the earth which you prepared for a regular chaya for a koi. Assumingly, though, if you prepared it specifically for the koi, could be that would be okay. Okay, so Rami Berei de Rav Yeva Amar Koi Hainu Taima Deloy Mechasinan. So he says it's a different reason altogether. The reason why you cannot cover the blood of a koi is Gzeir Mishum Mataras Chalavai. The Gzeir you might come to be matter its chalev. In other words, a behema differs from a chai in two aspects. One is a behema you don't have to cover the blood, and the chalev is aser. By a chaya, just the opposite is true. You have to cover the blood, and the chalev, though, is mutter. So the Rabbanan were worried that if someone will cover the blood of a kai, you might think that you're able to eat the chalev, when in fact, being that it's a suffix, we go the chumim both ways. You have to cover the blood, and you can't eat the chalev. So the Gemara says, "Yihachi afilu b'chol nami." If so, during the week also you shouldn't cover the blood, even misafik, because it will lead to a chumrah. Yeah, it will lead to a problem. So Gemara says, "B'chol amri lenaker chatzer hu tzarich." During the weekday, you could say you're just cleaning up your chatzar. So that's why you're covering with dirt, and you won't come to get mixed up and say the chalev is mutter. However, on Yom Tov you're not allowed to clean up the chatzar. It's aser. So Gemara says, okay. So shachat ba'ashba ma'ikil nimar. So Gemara has two questions. First of all, if you shecht in a garbage dump, what are you going to say? In other words, no one's going to say you're cleaning it up. The only reason why you're putting dirt on it is to cover the blood. And Bali Molech Mai Iklamimar. Also, if someone comes to a Rav and asks the Shaila, what are you going to do? In other words, if you're going to tell him that a Koi, you have to cover the blood, so people will think, okay, it must be a Chai. That being the case, I could eat the Chaylev. So Gemara says, Ela Bechol Inami Mesafka, even if it is a suffix, Amri Le Rabbanan Zil Tarach V'Kasi. So that's not a problem. Because those two questions are not a problem, because during the week, they'll just tell them, Misafik, you cover the blood. And we'll tell them it's a suffix. And that's not a problem. However, by Yom Tov, Imisafkam Yamu Le Rabbanan Zil Tarach V'Kasi. By Yom Tov, if you cover the blood, you're only allowed to cover the blood if it's a vadai. And therefore, we'll tell you not to cover the blood, in order not to get into this problem. Okay, Tani Rabbi Zera taught, like Koi Bilvad Amru wasn't only a Koi which was said, Ella Filu Shachat Behima Chayiv Oif, Misarvu Daman Zebza, even if you shech the Behima Chayiv Oif and the blood gets mixed in with each other. Also, the Chasoy Yantav, you can't cover it on Yantav because you're doing extra tircha on Yantav, because you'll need more dirt. So Amar Rabbi Yossi Bar Yassinia. It's only if you can't cover with a single scoop. In other words, so there won't be any extra tircha involved. If you could cover with a single shovelful, single digging, literally. So then it is mutter. So Gemara says, it's obvious. Of course you could. You're not putting in any extra tircha. So Gemara says, Mahu detema nigzar dekir achas atu shtei dekiros, that you shouldn't cover it at all, even with a single dekira, because you might come to do it with two dekiros. Kamash v'la, no, there's no problem, and you should cover it. Okay. So stop here.
Go ahead.